And there's new reporting on a phone call between the president and the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Sources telling CNN that the president at one point wasn't happy earlier today about a report he saw regarding the online retail giant. Amazon then clarifying their plans. Let's get the latest from Elena Treen, who's at the White House for us. And Elena, you got the scoop about this Trump-Bezos call. It all has to do with a certain section of that website potentially showing shoppers how much Trump tariffs might cost them, right?
That's exactly right. So essentially, I'll just give you the breakdown of how this played out as, it is according to the senior White House officials I spoke with on this. Essentially, there was a story published this morning by Punchbowl News that said Amazon was considering to show the cost of tariffs on Amazon's website next to its prices to show the breakdown of how much more the tariffs were making these products cost. That was something that then one senior White House official who I spoke with called President Trump about directly to inform him of it. Now, this is what one of those officials told me the response was. They said, quote, "Of course he was pissed. Why should a multi-billion-dollar company pass off costs to consumers?" Then we learned, and this is according to two senior White House officials I spoke with, that the president was so angered by this, he called up the founder of Amazon himself, Jeff Bezos, to complain about the potential plans that were being reported on. We also heard White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt say publicly that they believed that the move was a hostile political act. All to say, after all of that, the White House making very clear their position, both publicly and privately, Amazon then seemed to backtrack. They had one statement come out from an Amazon spokesperson that essentially said, quote, "It was never a consideration for the Man Amazon site, and nothing had been implemented on Amazon properties." They said it was only going to be for certain products on its website. But then when I reached out to Amazon, they sent me a different statement saying it was their latest version of it. And essentially it added and made clear that it was never approved and not going to happen. So I think it's just a pretty remarkable story, really, of how this all played out. And really, I think the bottom line here is it shows that this White House did not want the tariff prices and the cost of these tariffs being shown. They were also, really taking issue with the fact that some of the costs of the tariffs could be passed on from Amazon to consumers.
And Elena, on the auto tariffs and the president's event tonight, what should we expect?
Yeah, look, this is something that we heard confirmed this morning from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Essentially, the president is going to be signing a new executive order today. We're told he'll sign it on board Air Force One as he travels to Michigan for his rally to mark his first 100 days in office. And essentially, the order is going to ease some of the tariffs on automakers. Now, I was told in my conversations with White House officials that this came after the president had spoken on multiple occasions with different CEOs of the major automaker companies. And this is something as well we heard Scott Bessent said that they want to try and help these automakers. They want to encourage them and motivate them to bring manufacturing to the United States. And in order to do that, they might have to soften the impact of some of the tariffs that we're seeing the president roll out. Now, this executive order, some Commerce Department officials walked through some of the details with reporters. It's very wonky, but I want to give you kind of the 50,000-foot view, Boris. Essentially, the 25% tariff on imported cars still remains, and that's going to continue remain. There's also going to be a new tariff going into effect this week and another 25% tariff on parts, auto parts coming into the United States. However, this new order will give the ability for some of these automakers to get reimbursed for some of the 25% tariffs, but then also they really are looking at trying to prevent domestic-made cars in the United States from being tariffed in the same rate that auto cars would be tariffed, as well as the foreign parts of different tariffs, even in domestically produced cars. All of that to say, it's very complex, but it's clear what they're trying to do here. They're trying to ease the impact that some of these automakers are feeling, and really their bottom line goal is to encourage manufacturing in the United States. That's the bottom line with what they're trying to do here, and you are seeing the stock market respond kind of favorably to the news of this, Boris.
Elena Treen live for us at a noisy White House. Sounds like a plane overhead. Elena, thank you so much.
This Amazon White House spat over what Amazon is now saying was just this kind of idea that was being discussed to list tariff upcharges on some Amazon haul products. What do you think just about the idea of this, about letting consumers know what a tariff policy is costing them?
Well, it's a tough calculation for a giant retailer like Amazon, but if it's doable, it's a fantastic idea. The fact is that tariffs are taxes, and they are typically paid by American companies and consumers. Any bit of sunlight that we can shed on that tax would be a good thing, because typically tariffs are hidden. They're hidden in the supply chains. They're paid at the border. That's one reason why politicians like tariffs. They're a very seductive tool because consumers don't typically see them. So if we could shed some light on it, that'd be pretty great, but it's not an easy calc.
There was a pretty important development that just happened. It continues to develop, but we saw a big shift right before we came on air. And this has to do with Amazon and President Trump and Jeff Bezos. What happened?
Yeah, speaking of needing 7 hours to explain something. So Punchbowl News, our great friends and colleagues over at Punchbowl News broke the story this morning that one of the offshoot websites of Amazon was going to post the price differential based on tariffs on the website so consumers would see it. You've actually seen companies do this in the past with inflation prices, those things like that. Trump, according to our colleague Elena Treen, great reporting, picked up the phone and called Bezos, who he's gotten increasingly close with over the course of the last several months, was very upset about what happened. Now Amazon is saying that is not under consideration. It will not be implemented. They backed off. And I think there's a bigger picture here that's important to note. Trump has a level of authority and influence over the business community that he never had before now. Mm-hmm. The problem in this specific case is Amazon is one of hundreds of thousands of companies that are trying to grapple with, okay, do we eat these prices? Do we pass them on to consumers? How do we kind of deal with this going forward? And it would become a game of whack-a-mole to be able to knock out every single company and jawbone them away from doing that. It's just kind of getting to the uncertainty idea right now. The underlying economy is good. The numbers are still good. Inflation is good, wages are good, jobs are good. What everybody's looking forward to is what Amazon was trying to figure out when they were considering this proposal for one of their offshoot websites, which is things are about to potentially get really bad. And just the perception of that in a consumer-driven economy can lead to those things actually happening, whether they're going to or not.
And what I think there's a difference between a mom and pop shop in Minnesota putting on their website the differential price and a multi-billionaire company that probably can afford to take the hit on tariffs to some extent without passing it on to the consumer. And it was that the politics of that gave the White House and Trump in that phone call to Bezos, I'm sure, a bit of a card to play.
Even if Amazon has backed off, there are a lot of those small businesses across the country that are making it very clear that they're saying to their the people that buy their products, look, this stroller that you're about to buy, the cost of it is going to change from this much to this much if this goes into effect. I mean, you see it all the time, them posting on social media, making very transparent and clear the impact on their small business. So even if the massive retailers don't say it, the voters are seeing it, which is why they're so scared about the tariff. I do want to ask you about what was a big story today, the White House calling what was initially reported as Amazon tariff upcharges on some products. They call that hostile. Amazon has since said it was an idea discussed and never approved for Amazon Haul, which is its Shein and Temu competitor. But what do you think about that bigger issue of letting consumers know what a president's policy is costing them?
Listen, Brianna, free trade for the last 35 years has really meant unfair trade. The president has come in, and look, none of us are necessarily happy about some of the market conditions and all. As we've seen, though, the markets have largely come back. They're still down about 4 or 5%, but they've come back. We needed this correction. We needed it desperately for the short term and the long term. You saw some of the numbers. Those weren't fictitious. 60, 70% tariffs in India versus 4% here in the United States.
So what about this idea of an upcharge, like breaking down the transparency in pricing?
Right. Well, listen, Amazon didn't put 20% inflation cost increase due to the Biden administration policies.
But a lot of restaurants
in this case, well, maybe so. But in this case, I just wonder if Amazon is also going to put, when they start selling a lot more in India, hey, thanks, President Trump, we're now selling much more in India. And by the way, there's been no inflationary issues surrounding products at this point. So anything they would do would be premature and would be speculative. We haven't seen inflation kick up. As a matter of fact, the report just came in. Inflation's at its lowest it's been since 2021. At 2.4%.
Well, I think this is about the actual cost of the product on the tariff. I understand what you're saying because there are concerns that the tariffs may be inflationary overall. And inflation, certainly a very real thing under the Biden administration, which is why we saw a minority, but a significant number of restaurants, for instance, putting inflation charges on their bills.